Hi guys, I'm here with your stories. I know I haven't read them for you guys in a while since I've been down with my lungs hurting so bad the past few days, but today is a much better day for me. Thank God for that. And I know some of you guys have been praying for me, and thank you very much for that. I know prayers work miracles, and I know that's why I'm feeling better. Um, I'm going to try to get through 2 stories today. If I don't ramble on, maybe I can get through 2 stories for today. I'm going to get them from the inspirational section today, and I haven't read any of them either, so hopefully they'll be good ones. This one looks like it's kinda long, so we'll see how long it takes us to read it and see if we can get another one in. But it's called Information Please. When I was quite young, my father had one of the first telephones in our neighborhood. I remember well the polished old case fastened to the wall and shiny receiver on the side of the box. I was too little to reach the telephone, but used to listen with fascination when my mother used to talk on it. When I discovered that somewhere inside the wonderful device lived an amazing person, and her name was Information Please, and there was nothing she did not know. Information Please could supply anybody's number and the correct time. My first personal experience with this gentle genie in the bottle came one day while my mother was visiting a neighbor. Amusing myself at the tool bench in the basement, I whacked my finger with a hammer. The pain was terrible, but there didn't seem to be any reason in crying because there was no one home to give sympathy. I walked around the house sucking my throbbing finger, finally arriving at the stairway. The telephone. Quickly I ran for the footstool in the parlor and dragged it to the landing. Climbing up, I unhooked the receiver in the parlor and held it to my ear. "Information, please," I said into the mouthpiece just above my head. A click or two, and a small clear voice spoke into my ear. "Information." "I hurt my finger," I wailed into the phone. The tears came readily enough now that I had an audience. "Isn't your mother home?" came the question. "Nobody's home but me," I blubbered. "Are you bleeding?" the voice asked. "No," I replied. "I hit my finger with a hammer and it hurts." "Can you open your icebox?" she said. I said I could. "Then chip off a little piece of ice and hold it on your finger," said the voice. After that I called Information Please for everything. I asked her for help with my geography, and she told me where Philadelphia was. She helped me with my math. She told me my pet chipmunk that I had caught in the park just the day before would eat fruits and nuts. Then there was the time Petey, our pet canary, died. I called Information Please and told her the sad story. She listened, then said the usual things grown-ups say to soothe a child. But I was unconsoled. I asked her, why is it that birds should sing so beautifully and bring joy to all families only to end up as a heap of feathers on the bottom of a cage? She must have sensed my deep concern, for she said quietly, "Paul, remember that there are other worlds to sing in." Somehow I felt better. Another day I was on the telephone. "Information, please." "Information," said the now familiar voice. "How do you spell fix?" I asked. All this took place in a small town in the Pacific Northwest when I was 9 years old. We moved across the country to Boston. I missed my friend very much. Information Please belonged to that old box back home, and I somehow never thought of trying the tall, shiny new phone that sat on the table in the hall. As I grew into my teens, the memories of those childhood conversations never really left me. Often in moments of doubt and perplexity, I would recall the serene sense of security I had then. I appreciated now how patient, understanding, and kind she was to have spent her time on a little boy. A few years later, on my way west to college, my plane put down in Seattle. I had about half an hour or so between planes. I spent 15 minutes or so on the phone with my sister, who lived there now. Then, without thinking what I was doing, I dialed my hometown operator and said, "Information, please." Miraculously, I heard the small, clear voice I knew so well. "Information." I hadn't planned this, but I heard myself saying, "Could you please tell me how to spell fix?" There was a long pause, then came the soft-spoken answer, "I guess your finger must have healed by now." I laughed. So it's really you," I said. "I wonder if you have any idea how much you meant to me during this time." "I wonder," she said, "if you know how much your calls meant to me." "I wonder," she said, "if you know how much your calls meant to me. I never had any children, and I used to look forward to your calls." I told her how often I had thought of her over the years, and I asked if I could call her again when I came back to visit my sister. "Please do," she said. "Just ask for Sally." 3 months later, I was back in Seattle. A different voice answered, "Information." I asked for Silly. I asked for Sally. "Are you a friend?" she said. "Yes, a very old friend," I answered. "I'm sorry to have to tell you this," she said. "Sally had been working part-time the last few years because she was sick. She died 5 weeks ago." Before I could hang up, she said, "Wait a minute. Did you say your name was Paul?" "Yes." "Well, Sally left a message for you." She wrote it down in case you called. Let me read it to you. The note said, "Tell him I still say there are other worlds to sing in. He'll know what I mean." I thanked her and hung up. I know what Sally meant. Never underestimate the impression you make on others whose life have you touched today. Oh, sorry guys. Whose life have you touched today? I didn't know that was going to be a sad one. I'm sorry about that. Oh, don't take much from me, I guess. Let's see if I can find one in the funny section. Humorous stories. I think I've about read them all. And most of them's not that funny. But, let's see. We read that one. Did we read Be Afraid, Be Very Afraid? Let me see what it looks like. I don't think we read this one. So, this is from the funny section. Hopefully it'll be funny, guys. It's called Be Afraid, Be Very Afraid. Lisa's lip trembled, but she refused to be a crybaby. She was a big girl, for goodness sakes. She held her hands out and saw that they were shaking. In fact, most of her was shaking. "Stop that," she demanded through clenched teeth. But her hands wouldn't listen, and neither would her legs, which at the moment felt like 2 strands of spaghetti. She hated that she was nervous. So what if this was her first day? Oh. We read this one. Remember, we thought it was about a young girl being afraid to go to school, and it was really the teacher who was afraid. That was a funny one, but we've read it. I think I've read all these. Did we read Dr. Dabbs Takes a Leave of Absence? I don't think so. Let's see. Dr. Dabbs Takes a Leave of Absence by Jan Ackerson. February 2nd. I have approached the other doctors in my family practice about taking a short leave of absence. I saw an ad in my medical journal today that looked intriguingly. It mentioned an exotic setting and unique patients. 10 years of ear infections and sprained ankles have left me longing for a bit of adventure. I think I'll apply. February 15th. That was quick. I got the job, and I have been asked to start as soon as I can tie up loose ends here. I am replacing Dr. Foster, who went to Gloucester, blah, 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 or whatever that word was, March 2nd. They were right about the unique patients. My first patient today were a husband and wife who came in together, a Mr. and Mrs. Spratt. I've never seen an odder couple. Mr. Spratt couldn't weigh more than 115 pounds, and his wife easily triple his weight. I advised Mr. Spratt to eat more fat and his wife to eat more lean. Do we know where this is going? That is a nursery rhyme. Who does not know that? March 5th. Today was most interesting case was a Mr. Willie Winky. A charming man, quite small in stature. He came in complaining that he walks in his sleep. Just last night his wife realized that he had left their bed and found him outside dressed only in a nightshirt babbling about curfew times. I treated his mild sleep apnea, sleepwalking, and prescribed a sleeping pill. March 11th. A Mrs. Nimble brought in her son Jack, with minor burns to the soles of his feet. When asked about the case of the burns, she told me that Jack had been jumping over candlesticks, of all things. I dressed the burns and prescribed medications to treat Jack's hyperactivity. On a side note, I'd like to jot down my observations about the people here. They are a happy lot, generally healthy and content, but perhaps a bit simple. They are partial to whimsical names and quaint clothing, and are especially appreciative of a good rhyme. Although I am enjoying my stay, I find that I yearn for a deep and meaningful conversation. March 17th. A breathless patient rushed into my office today, nearly hysterical because of a spider bite. I examined Miss Muffet and determined that the bite was not that of a poisonous spider, and gave her a mild sedative for her anxiety. She also discussed adding greater variety to her rather limited diet of curds and whey. Later I consulted with a Mrs. Blue, who is concerned about her little boy. She complained that he sleeps when he should be looking after the animals. I told her that at 7 he was far too young to be tending sheep. March 18th. I had perhaps the most serious case to date this afternoon. A young boy and his sister were brought to me with multiple injuries sustained in a fall down a steep hill. Jack's injuries were the most severe, a skull fracture and concussion. Jill suffered mostly cuts and bruises and a few splinters from the wooden bucket she was carrying. While I was admitting Jack for overnight observation, another patient arrived with severe gastrointestinal pain. Interestingly, with this patient was also named Jack, by far the most popular name here. I determined that Jack Horner had simply eaten too much plum pie. Some syrup of ipecac and a stern warning should convince him not to overindulge. March 21st. I'm beginning to realize that these people have no common sense at all. A Mr. Piper came in today, moaning and clutching his abdomen. He had then eaten an entire peck of peppers. A peck! I sent him home with antacids and the promise that the pain would pass. No sooner had he parted than another patient presented, having partaken a 9-day-old peas porridge. Positively pathetic. March 28th. I was called to Rosie Elementary School today. The children were playing some silly game, and they all fell down. Minor injuries only. For more disturbing was the patient who awaited me when I returned. A mother had nestled her infant's cradle in a bough of a tree, and it fell when a gust of wind toppled it from the precarious perch. The baby was only frightened, thankfully, but what was the mother thinking? More and more I'm longing to return to my old practice. April 1st, that's it. I'm leaving tomorrow. I was called to the outskirts of town today and asked to attempt reconstructive surgery on an egg. 1, 2, buckle my shoe. I'm out of here. And that was the end of that. That was Dr. Dabbs takes a leave of absence. And I had to say that was pretty cute. And we're over 15 minutes. I guess that wasn't too bad, right? Maybe? Since I messed up and almost read a story that we've already read, maybe it wouldn't have been so long if I hadn't have done that. And I will stop rambling on now for this video because it's going over 16 minutes now. So I will be quiet. I will say I love you guys. Let's bring those souls to Jesus. And I hope you guys have a great day. And God willing, I will see you all tomorrow. I love you guys. God bless. Bye.